Hey gang, Dr. G, Imaginarium. So, talking about dreams today, had a commentator, a viewer, bring up an interesting question. I wanted to share it with you. It was talking about how dreams present and generally how to approach their meaning. The viewer said, let me get this right. Is it that the dream shows you how things are, and then it is up to the ego to solve the situation presented? But then the question is, can the psyche provide a some measure of a solution to the problem that it's being presented through the dream narrative? For example, if there's a monster chasing you that metaphorically needs to be slain or befriended or something or other, will the dream just show you being chased rather than actually show you what you're supposed to do with it? So, this is a great question. And I think the short answer to this is yes and no. Or another way to say it is the psyche does sometimes show you solutions or possible solutions. And the reason I can say that with relative confidence is because the function of dreaming is involved in a lot of different processes. It is, at its most basic, a description of, or it's a construction of meaning. It's an exercise in meaning making. So it's always asking the question, who am I? But of course, there's a lot goes into that. There's a whole lot of things that factor into that question. Some involving memory. Who am I also means, how did I get here? That's memory. Who am I means, how can I solve the current problems I'm dealing with? So it's involved in future planning. And then who am I is also, how do I relate to everyone else around me? And how do I relate to my environment, even, and the natural world? So all of those things go into dream construction and dream content. It is focused relentlessly on the dreamer. The dreamer is the main character of the story, always. You, well, I shouldn't say always. There are certain very rare instances where you might be dreaming someone else's dream, but even in that case, that's only a person that you've come very closely with through your lifetime, that you have a strong affinity or attachment, even conflicted, and you'll wind up with a dream like that sometimes. But most of the time, it's almost always going to be focused on you. Right? You don't have a dream about my long lost Uncle Ralph. You just don't dream about that. What it's doing then is showing you metaphorically and symbolically what situation you're in. It's, my life is progressing as if X, and where X is the content of the dream. That's my number one dream hack. And the reason why it works is because it cues into the symbolic nature of the dream, and also the fact that it is relentlessly trying to figure out what my current situation is all really about. Now, that said, the ego is, of course, the dreamer. And because you don't know that you're dreaming, you behave the way that you would in the dream as you would otherwise. So any habits that keep you stuck in a certain situation will be reflected in the dream narrative, because you're still deciding what you're going to do. If you're being chased by a monster, if we're going to use that example, for example, then we can say, well, since you keep running from the monster that needs to be dealt with, that is giving us an idea of what it is that you're doing more literally. And as soon as you decide to face that, then that situation will be resolved. Now, the way this works in therapy is someone may bring a dream to me like this, and then we analyze it in the session. And once we figure out what the actual meaning of the dream is, say in this example, it means that you're running from something, you're avoiding something that you really need to deal with, because the dream is telling you when you run away from it, it doesn't fix the situation. That's where the wisdom comes in. The wisdom of the dream is in showing you what the ego is not normally seeing. It's a bigger picture. That's why it's so helpful, and that's why it's so useful in therapy. So if I look at the dream and I say, oh, okay, I keep avoiding the situation, and if the monster is a representation of a harmful relationship or a troublesome relationship or even a positive relationship that I'm afraid of and I'm treating it as if it were a monster, all of those things will make it pure monstrous. It could be a terrorist, it could be a demon, it could be anything. And the details do matter, so you'll have to work through that. But in general, it'll show you what's going on. Now, you as as the dreamer, if it's a lucid dream, you might be able to realize what's going on. But more often than not, it's you looking at the dream in retrospect and going, oh, that's what I'm doing. Okay, I need to fix that. And once you get it, you won't need to dream that anymore, and you'll stop. I've seen it many, many times. So that's when you really start to see the magic of how this works. And it's really fascinating. Now, one last thing, though, I will say, sometimes you may have a dream that shows you a situation you need to be in. So that's where you get this more unusual case of the dream showing you the solution. For example, I've seen cases where a person, say, was very depressed and was very stuck in life and was very low in their energy and their motivation, and then might have a dream where they are suddenly whisked away by people and brought into an initiation ritual. This is something you see a lot talked about in Jungian literature. And they go through this rite of passage, say, and are then reintegrated into this new group of people, and they wake up, and you always want to track the feeling there, though it goes with it, though. If they feel invigorated by that, then this is a case of a future planning type of dream, where I need to maybe go this way, is what the psyche is considering. It's saying, do we need to go this direction? Do I need to initiate myself into a new way of living, a new circle of people, a new identity even? How do I manage that? And in those cases, then the psyche is proposing a possible solution. So it's easy, though, to take that kind of more literally as like a message from the psyche, say, to the ego, saying you need to do this. But Jung was against that, and I understand why. I am too. It's easy to get carried away with that kind of thinking. Rather, though, think of it as the psyche working very hard at problem solving and creative solutions, and that, hey, this is a possible way to go. What does that feel like? Ultimately, what we're looking for is integration of all the different conflicting parts that are going on within us. And we want adjustment, that is, to ourselves and our surroundings and our society. That's the ultimate gain and the goal that we're working towards, and that the psyche is working towards all the time in the background. So if you like this, then you can check out my other videos. I've got my Mysteries of the Psyche, which drops on Sundays, like this one. I've got Myth and Culture videos, which I will drop when you least expect them. And then, of course, I have Mental Health Mondays, which I always drop on Fridays. And if you're wondering why I do it like that, well, as soon as you figure it out, then we'll both know. Catch you next time.